Welcome back to the M101 podcast. Remember, this is just a small extract of the podcast itself. On today's episode, number 4, myself and Rob detail 3 more underlying principles of Movement 101: health, longevity, and self-efficacy. Hope you enjoy it.
This is the Movement 101 podcast.
Them 2 principles, Rob, were health and longevity. But the last one we want to talk about, because it's really, really big for us in terms of the human body, in terms of the belief you have of your body and what you can physically do with it. But this idea of self-efficacy. And if you don't know what self-efficacy is, let me give you the definition. The definition for self-efficacy is the confidence in the ability to exert control over one's own motivation, behavior, and social environment. Can you kind of break it down for us, Rob, what self-efficacy means to you?
Well, what it means to me is like your belief that you can actually do something, that you can affect change, and that you can have a high self-efficacy towards some things or a lower self-efficacy to one thing. So obviously we're talking about activity, physical fitness, and indeed mindset as well. Then we're going into a bit of that, but yeah, you're in control, okay? But you can work on your self-efficacy, but it is all this. We've had it before. I've had it before. Running around trying to get fixed by people. I had multiple dislocations on my shoulders and surgery on them, and I suffered with back pain for a long time. I mentioned back at the surfing, I couldn't surf, and I was going around trying to be fixed without really taking control myself. I needed to move in 101 back then,
Yeah.
So that's what self-efficacy is to me. It's just your belief, your understanding, and that you can affect change on yourself.
And it is, if we go back to our programs of Mobile for Life and Innate Strength, Mobile for Life in particular, we give you the option of building your own program from the 150 plus exercises that are in the membership portal. Innate Strength, we literally have trainings from Brian on Sleep 101 and Nutrition 101. They're not telling you exactly what to do. They're literally educating you on what you can do yourself, and you can then begin to take that into your own life, because self-efficacy for us is huge. You mentioned it there, because that was definitely me. My God, when I had a shoulder injury for 3 years, I went to professionals left, right and centre, some of the best people in the country to fix me. Rub my shoulder. Will you fix it here? What is my issue? Basically telling me, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to fix me? And surprise, surprise, I got some short-term relief. I didn't get any long-term benefit, because there is no one exercise. And as we mentioned there previously about, what's the one exercise for this huge amount of training volume that I'm doing? Well, there is an exercise, So it is kind of looking at that. But we can break down the self-efficacy to 4 components. And actually, who was this, Rob? You had it up there. Get it up there. Who this framework is from, because it's brilliant, and it really explains what self-efficacy is. We kind of break it down into 4 parts, and the first part is
there's 4. They're not necessarily in order, but 4 parts could be performance outcomes.
Okay.
Vicarious experience.
Okay.
Experiences. Verbal persuasion.
Yeah.
And physiological feedback.
Okay, well, tell you what.
So we'll go to maybe the vicarious experiences first. So this is Bandura, 1977, okay? So going into a bit of a psychology here, but people kind of develop high or low self-efficacy vicariously through other people's performances. A person can watch another perform and then compare their own competence with the other's individual's competence.
So straight away to us, what that streams and what we're trying to build and have done over the last 4 years is community. I mean, we're trying to use our own experience, because we didn't have that self-efficacy. We're trying to show you what we have done, that honestly, it's nothing special. We just understand it. And then by having thousands of members on our programs, you can see people get results. Everyone is just human. The idea being that if you can provide this stimulus, if we have this education, if we all take that responsibility, then you can see that, oh my God, I can change as well. But then, as you mentioned to me off podcast, these experiences could also be going the opposite way. Yeah. Because you could see, for example, give me an example of a negative experience then, if you were to have a belief that you could do something.
Well, maybe it's, do you ever hear that meme or that joke? And it's like, how's it go again? The problem is diabetes runs in my family.
All right.
And the doctor goes, no, the problem is no one runs in your family. Okay, because type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle problem. People consuming unhealthy foods, getting overweight, not getting exercise. Okay, so it's a massive problem these days. So if you're living in that, if you're maybe a child living in that kind of environment, and your parents are not eating, maybe they're smoking, they're drinking, they're overeating, and there's a fair chance that that child is not going to be getting exercise. So look, he's in that environment. Environment plays a factor, right?
Yeah.
So
I do think, though, that is why it's important to reach out to get a coach or a community, because if you're surrounded by people who are doing good things, you are much more likely to do good things yourself. And especially if you want to, again, going back to taking that responsibility, it's so much easier to do it where people are doing the same thing as you, have the same values, have the same goals, because, again, it's not about doing something very short term and today. It's about continually doing that over time.
Yeah, and so it's one of the reasons we pop up testimonials all the time.
Yeah.
I try to explain to people, and it's almost a bit embarrassing sometimes. Oh, wow, that's brilliant. I said, it's not really. It's just like, did you see my picture there a few years ago in my mid-30s?
Yeah.
It's not like I've been doing this since I worked hard in getting out of shape in my 20s and early 30s. I was weak, immobile, not much muscle mass. Beyond a stage where you might say, okay, you're mid-30s now. If you're a professional footballer, you'd be retired. So, the human body can turn things around. All right. So, and going back to the coaching thing, I got a coach.
Yeah.
I still do employ coaches. And I was with this guy for a year, and I knew I needed that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's the next one? And after vicarious experiences?
Yeah, verbal persuasion.
Okay. And again, positive or negative, it can go both ways.
Yeah, exactly. Self-efficacy is influenced by encouragement and discouragement pertaining to an individual's performance or ability to perform. And that was Redmond said that in 2010.
Well, I'll just take over the positive, and you can take over the negative if you want. But the positive, again, is just our community. We're encouraging people to do better. When they do good work, we're saying brilliant. We're helping them progress in terms of where they are. And again, we're giving the education around, why this could be the option, or, you're not broken, or, don't be worrying that you haven't been consistent over the last week. Let's start again. Let's reset. Less is more. Just begin to try and introduce these habits once again. So, again, the positivity comes from our experience, it comes from our education, and what we're trying to do with our community is pass that on, essentially. But the negative is a big one that we see in the industry. Because you mentioned about someone saying a physio once told a member of ours that I think he was 30 years of age, and he was told the stiffest person he's ever seen in his life. So literally a health professional told someone, I've never seen someone in this case ever before as bad as you.
The worst case of tight hamstrings I've ever seen.
So imagine just being told that by someone who's much more educated than you, and straight away you think, oh my God, I'm broken.
I'm properly
There's something wrong with me.
No one's going to fix me.
No one's like me.
Yeah.
What am I? I'm not like other people. And the idea is that, no, you're exactly like other people.
Yeah, when you think of humanity, the amount of humans that have lived, you've come from you go back, 3 billion years of evolution, so...
And then even take it again, because this idea of, oh my God, I just looked at an MRI of your spine there, and it looks like your spine is degenerating. And then someone goes, oh my God, I'm breaking down here. Whereas if we were told that, we'd say, oh, that's fine. I mean, I have wrinkles on my face because I'm aging. If I get an MRI, me personally, I could easily have a degenerative spine. It doesn't always equate to pain. So again, the positive and negative can completely sway your self-efficacy, can completely believe what you are capable of with your body, and then in turn your life. And it's the importance, go back again to episode 1, I'm going to keep going back to these principles all the time, education. It's absolutely key in order to have that self-efficacy. And if you're getting continually clicked and cracked and rubbed, and there's no education around what the hell's going on, there's just no real self-efficacy. And self-efficacy will only really result in that long-term kind of gain. After that, verbal persuasion then, Rob, what's the next one?
Yeah, performance outcomes.
Okay.
So positive and negative experiences can influence the ability of an individual to perform a given task. If one has performed well at a task previously, he or she is likely to feel competent and perform well at a similar associated task. So that's Bandura again, 77. So we could bring that directly to training.
Yep.
And that's why, for example, in Mobile for Life, and somewhat that we spout a lot is less is more. And even in innate strength, to a degree,
definitely.
You're far more. You're better off being consistent with a small number of exercises than being inconsistent with many.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if you get through phase 1 of Mobile for Life or month 1 of innate strength, you're consistent with that. Hey, what have you felt from that? You're going to make progress.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, wow, hey, this training works. So that got the tight hamstrings.
Yeah.
Hey, we obviously wouldn't have said that to him. We would have given him a program, crack away with that for a month. Give us a call then.
Well, even a big focus for us as well currently actually is the Hands to Floor series.
Yeah.
And we're getting amazing results in literally 6 days, 7 days, some people 2 weeks, some people 4 weeks. But there's just small little wins that show people, oh my God, there can be a change within a week, 2, 3, or 4.
Of course there can be.
So imagine
that is a tiny amount of time. A month is a tiny amount of time.
It really is. So, but imagine again then that shows if I continue with this for 6 months, for 12 months, for 3 years, and again, it can be negative as well. And this is the issue. People genuinely believe that in 4 weeks, I'm going to be this way forever. And we're telling you right now, if you're following a program and you stop following the program, we're pretty confident that you're not going to have that same benefit from the program that you had initially.
Yeah, that's the principle of reversibility, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah, the body gets good at what you do. We always mention it because, again, it's not that you're just doing this to fix yourself. You're not doing this because you have back pain. You're taking that ownership. You're moving. You're physically moving because it's a hell of a lot deeper than just moving. But also, it's this lifestyle that you're taking that ownership for the long term.
Yeah, and just to briefly on the lifestyle, I've lived both. I've lived the sedentary lifestyle, and like, I thought of this there a while ago. It just popped into my head, but I actually think it's physically harder to live a sedentary lifestyle than it is to live an active lifestyle.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird because a sedentary lifestyle that I lived, working in an office, going to the piss the weekend, having a few drinks during the week, not doing much exercise at all. I had back pain, upper back pain, lower back pain. Whenever I couldn't stand, like I'd have difficulty standing for a long time if I had to go to like a wedding or something, standing in suit shoes, my back would be sore. I was in physical pain. I was going around like trying to get this pain kind of fixed by people rubbing, cracking, clicking, whatever. There's a time from I'm not shunning manual therapy again completely, but actually training, you'd think that'd be physically harder. Yes, it is for that hour or whatever, but the feeling afterwards, obviously the mental kind of the endorphins you get, the endocannabinoid upregulation, the good humor, feeling of physical strength, you have more energy. That's a big thing, a hell of a lot more energy. So, this, I just thought it's kind of a bit of a...
No, but I think you're dead right, because ultimately what we're trying to do with training with the body, and what we're trying to do with all of our programs, for example, is allow your body, and in turn your brain, handle more stress. Because that's what training is. You're stressing the body. In turn, it has to recover and it will adapt.
Stress is it's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the idea. Because the idea now is that if we can go into the gym and add the stressor ourselves, we're going in voluntarily to add this stress. And that has huge transfer to your life and making the kind of bigger decisions and more stressful, tougher decisions.
And going back to self-efficacy, you're making this decision to do something hard.
Exactly.
Okay, and all of a sudden you could sit at home eating whatever, eating a tub of Ben and Jerry's, watching Love Island. Yeah. That's thinking of you there.
I do watch Love Island.
Or you could make the decision, do the hard thing, get up early. That's so powerful. Get up early, go to the gym.
I remember Miles. So Miles is our spiritual coach that we work with, and he told me a brilliant saying, like, it's so much easier to die. Yeah. So it's so much easier to sit on the couch and do nothing. It's so much easier to consume all Netflix and eat shite. It's so much harder to go and do that workout. You couldn't be arsed. It's so much harder to be consistent for much longer
jump at the IRC
than
this
a year.
Time of year,
yeah, exactly. So and the idea being is like, go towards these stressful situations. Go towards them in a very coordinated way with a program.
That's
and a
where
plan.
the long-term gratification is from doing the hard thing. You don't get it from being lazy. And if you ever wasted a day being lazy, like, did you ever take a duvet day back in the office and all of a sudden you think it's going to be great, but it's actually not. You're frustrated because your productivity is down, and it's like you get to the end of the day and you're still there watching TV. It's like...
And it just, again, the importance of community. If you're surrounded by people who are doing things that are going to motivate you or going to push you to do things when you don't really want to do them, you're going to get that result because you're going to be much more consistent. Yeah. The last one then, Rob, which I actually think is very important as well in terms of self-efficacy. What's the last one? Oh, you haven't got it up there. I have it here, but I'll let you go with it. So it's the last one in terms of the 4 principles.
Physiological feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, like, obviously, people experience sensations from their body. People experience sensations from their body, and how they perceive this emotional arousal influences their beliefs of efficacy. So, all right. So there's a training feedback. We just talked there about in the morning just a moment ago about getting up in the morning and going to the gym. You're going to have a physiological feedback from that. How do you feel after the gym? Generally, mentally, physically, how do you feel? Hopefully you haven't shattered yourself completely, but you feel good. You have that shower, you get dressed, and
attack your day.
Yeah.
And it's a really simple thing to use when you don't want to really do it, or you're very tired, the day's been stressful. It's like, I don't know, I get this done, I'm going to have more energy. I'm actually going to feel a hell of a lot better, and then I'm close towards my goal as well. But then if we take it back to something as simple as Mobile for Life, and that feedback that they get from something as simple as literally moving their spine. The center of them that has so much information towards the brain that, again, the extremities in terms of the hips, the pelvis, and the shoulders, etc. Like, no one's ever really moved their spine. And they think it's amazing what you've done. But when you begin to actually physically move that, and you go, whoa, you're getting some feedback. And all of a sudden you're going, I have that confidence actually to move here. The brain's getting some new stimulus. Think about this in terms of movement and the body. If you never moved your spine before, the map from your spine up towards your brain is very blurred because you've never really moved it.
Yeah.
And the idea through movement is that map begins to get a bit clearer.
Yeah.
And the more you move it, the clearer that map gets. The more you move it, the clearer that map gets over the long term. It's actually just there all the time. And if that map is very clear, that information is very clear, you can move that with control, with confidence, and you can, again, take that into every aspect of your life. And the feedback from the exercises that you get, they're very specific movements, especially in Mobile for Life that we have. Because we're training like individual parts like pelvis and spine and hips, etc., feet even, for example. And they're very sensory. They're hugely sensory around your feet. They're hugely sensory around your spine. And yet people aren't really aware that actually, I can move here. I can train here. And in turn, I can get some kind of feedback, cramping, etc.
Yeah, but you mentioned it there. It's like, and I've mentioned it before in posts, it's like we are training your brain too.
Yeah.
Like there's this big space in your brain that's devoted to your spine, okay? If you never move your spine, like I like that, like blurry, or I like the foggy. Your brain kind of, and when we and people find the spine segmentation, for example, difficult. Good, right? If you do that first day, that's easy. You're not doing it right. You're not trying hard enough. It should be difficult. So don't worry if you found it difficult, but practice. You'll get a little bit better at it, and all of a sudden your brain then has a clearer picture. It's like the fog dissipates. It has a clearer picture of what your spine is capable of, because movement's two-way communication. Nervous system, down to the spine and then feedback back. So we are kind of training the brain. And all of a sudden, that back pain that it might have, which might be just an output that the brain is just unsure. Now it has a clearer picture. You're building a case for that back pain, the brain not to output that back pain.
Well, actually, you even mentioned there about the brain being unsure, and cramping is something that we would talk about an awful lot, and it being neurological confusion.
Yeah,
You're
like
moving
that one,
a joint or a muscle into a space or an avenue it hasn't been before. The brain's getting, what the hell is this information that's not used
the muscle
to.
Can't contract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's kind of spasming. What we always say is flirt with the cramp. Cramping is good. Breathe through it. It will get better as you get stronger and go away from it. But it's just indication, for example, I've never moved here. The brain's like, what is this? And it's absolutely fine. It's not a bad thing.
It will learn.
Exactly.
What does the brain do? It learns.
And go back to analogies, because this is huge, right, for me. And it was something that I learned about the brain and the body, and kind of tightness and stiffness, right? Because it's something that we're always told, like, I want to get rid of this stiffness and this tightness. It's seen as a very bad thing. Whereas we know it's actually just the brain's response. So the brain is actually giving you a response right now because it's trying to protect you. It doesn't feel safe in certain range of motion, or can't move certain areas. And
it doesn't want a joint to go into a certain range of motion.
Exactly. So what it does is it tries to give you that stability of that joint through tightness, etc. But then let's take it back to the analogy of driving a car. So when for me personally, right, I never thought I'd be able to drive a car. Like, genuinely, when I was younger, I was like, Jesus, how could I ever drive a car? And of course, now I drive.
Is that why you drive like Miss Daisy?
Yeah, exactly. But well, you don't. You drive like a madman. But
I don't.
Whereas now I can drive a car very easily. But let's look at then the driving instructor and me being there and him teaching me what to do. He's got his own pedals because he doesn't trust me. Okay, so I'm in the car for the first time beside an experienced driving instructor, i.e. my brain, and he's like, right, I'm going to keep my foot in these pedals here because I don't trust this lad. And when he needs to, he goes, he puts his foot down, he puts the brakes on. What's that tightness? Stop. Bang. I don't feel safe. And then what happens? Well, I tell you, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 5, lesson 10. The driving instructor goes, I don't need to have my feet here. And you know what I do then? I go and do my lesson, and I pass. There's no one doing it. There's no tightness. There's no sudden stop. There's no brakes here, because I can now drive. I have the capacity to do it because it's a skill, and movement is a skill. Yeah. Your brain's putting this output because it's not used to it. Map that information. You can learn that. And the best thing about that as well, and a hashtag we always use, explore how you move. I can drive this car. I can now explore every other range of car. I don't have to just drive this car every time. I can drive any car I want to from now on. Timbuktu. I can start to race a car. I can begin to, drive a nicer car, a faster car, and that's the beauty of movement. It's not going to be pigeonholed into doing this one thing this way forever. Get the confidence, get the self-efficacy, because once you have that confidence, explore how you move. Off you go. Don't be held back by your body, and you won't be held back in your life.
Yeah, and that's like, we mentioned that with the spine stuff especially. We definitely teach a technique, spine segmentation, the global spinal mobility, and the other ones, but then explore how you do it. And like when people ask me how many reps, is it okay? Of course it is.
Thanks for listening. The full episode of this podcast is available to all Movement 101 members. If you would like to join our online community or want more details, please drop me a DM on Instagram at Brian_Movement101. See you soon.